when Amazon wanted to expand into Europe, they looked at, should we do it ourselves or should we partner up with somebody? And then they just gave us a call. And at some point, we met and Jeff Bezos came over and his VP team. And yeah, we ended up doing a merger with Amazon, which was basically a stock swap. So they acquired us and we got Amazon stock for it.
Hi everyone, so I'm with Christian today, who I've known for quite some time now, and he's got an incredible story as somebody who set up one of the first, if not first, online bookstores in the world, or certainly in Europe. And he's going to tell us more about his story today, including selling out to Amazon, his impressions of Jeff Bezos, what he's doing now, and much else. So Christian, welcome, and tell me a little bit about your journey and how you started your business and made this such a success.
Adam, nice to be with you. Yes, so that was quite a while ago now, right? Because it was sort of during the initial internet ramp up in the late 90s, the dot-com era. And it happened to be that, we started just writing back office systems. Part of the back office systems were also dealing with order transmissions. So we would send orders online. At the time, it was all dial-up systems. Then in Europe, they had international, or let's say national systems that were owned by the local telecoms. Again, every country had their own standard. So we were one of the very few companies that were at home in that field. And then when it started to become obvious that the internet was going to be the new medium, that was around the mid 90s, right? I would say 94, 95. We then put a lot of effort into adjusting our systems onto that new platform. And one thing that we had done was put all the available books onto a CD-ROM that was distributed to all the booksellers. And the booksellers then would order through our system online at the large warehouses. And so we said, instead of somebody that walks into a bookstore and tells the librarian which book they wanted, and they would use our system to look for the book, and then they would use our system to order the book, and then they would tell the client, you have to come back in 3 days and pick up the book, which is that, you can do that from home. And even though the online community at the time was extremely small, I remember like in the beginning of the 90s, right, in all of Germany, we had 100,000 subscribers. So that was your total addressable market, right? And then out of these, you have to figure out the few ones that would actually order something online. So it was like a tiny, tiny market. But anyway, the thing was, it was a little side business for us. And then, it grew as the internet adoption grew. And then we ended up being the largest online bookstore in Europe with like 1 million titles to look to search from. And and then when Amazon wanted to expand into Europe, they looked at, should we do it ourselves or should we partner up with somebody? And then they just gave us a call. And at some point, we met and Jeff Bezos came over and his VP team. And yeah, we ended up doing a merger with Amazon, which was basically a stock swap. So they acquired us and we got Amazon stock for it.
Sure. And what was your impression of Amazon and Jeff Bezos at the time? Are you surprised in terms of obviously they've become one of the most successful companies in the world? Bezos sometimes has been the richest man in the world and consistently in the top two or three. Uh, has that surprised you, or do you think you saw their growth trajectory at that point in time?
Um, at the time, Amazon was one of the internet startups, right? So it's comparable to today, some of the AI startups. And even though they were already very much on top of their game, I remember they were the first company in the US that went public without ever showing a profit. I mean, it was like before Amazon was unheard of, right? So they started a trend. Now, obviously, in the tech field, everybody does that. But back in the day, it was you couldn't really go public unless you showed 3 years of consistently growing profits. And then the valuation was a function of the profits that you had, right? I mean, there was no such thing before that as, oh, we value based on all that future potential that there is, but it's not really showing. And so, the valuation when Amazon went public was already extremely high for the time. I mean, today this will be whatever in the $10 billion range, right? What impressed me with Jeff Bezos was that he was obviously a very smart person. I mean, came from investment banking, but a lot of people that are very smart, they have problems dealing with the people that do the day-to-day work, right? So they're very good at strategizing, but they're not good at breaking it down or getting the people motivated that actually need to get the product out the door. And so I thought he was very good at that, right? So even though he was very smart and could lay out very high-end visions in the boardroom, he would also go to the warehouse and talk to the warehouse people, and had a very cordial way about him. And I mean, part of that spirit, I think, was in the Amazon culture at the time. For instance, there was this thing of we want to be frugal and not spend money on fancy office furniture. So the first desks they built out of old doors, out of old office doors, and then they kept on doing that for a while, even as the company was really big. I mean, at some point they had a whole department that was basically just producing their specific desks out of old office doors. And one other thing was that before Christmas, when there was a lot of products being shipped, and obviously everybody had to work very hard to fulfill all that client demand. Everybody, including all the VPs and even himself, they would work for one day at the warehouse, and that was so what built that structure of like everybody is very valued. There is no such thing as a rigid hierarchy that can't be breached, and I think that was what impressed me a lot about him.
Fantastic. And also, obviously, you got a very good payout from Amazon. And if I'm not mistaken, you kind of joined Amazon, you left after a year or two, you kind of retired or semi-retired, but then you came back. Maybe you were bored after selling the company. I mean, what led to that decision, would you say, to come back? Was it just boredom or something else?
Well, I was very young at the time already. When we did the deal, I think I was 29. Then I stayed with Amazon for a bit over a year. So at like 30, right, I was kind of in this, should I retire right now or no mode? And 30 is definitely too young to retire. And even though there was a period where I said, I worked so much ever since I was 15 years old. And there were a lot of things that I always wanted to spend more time on it. I didn't have the time because I was just working day and night, right? And part of that was travel to some faraway places where you need a little bit more than a few days over a weekend. Or one thing was I always wanted to get a helicopter license, right? Or I wanted to learn how to play the piano, or I wanted to get a black belt in karate because karate was something I always practiced at the time, but never with the full dedication that you would need. And so there were a bunch of things that I basically put on this bucket list, and I did most of these back in the days. But I still wanted to also stay in touch with what's happening in the business world. So, what I did was I was kind of working, I would not say full time, but, more as a partner with another friend of mine to look at interesting startup ideas and be an angel investor. I think a lot of people, once they sell their own business, that's what they try to do. and so I think for a few years, yes, that was like the balance was staying in touch with business and still having some time to do things where before I didn't have time for. Um, and then I felt, the angel investing, it was a little frustrating for me because in the beginning, everybody always says, "Oh, we want your input, and we like what you have to say and so forth." And it's all about, oh, how much money we're gonna make together and so forth. And what actually ends up happening is that once you send them the big check over, right? Um, they don't care so much about what you have to say. Most of them, it's all, oh, this is what I want to do. That this is my vision, and I work on it. And I'm the CEO, I'm the founder. And then at the same time, I mean, a lot of times it doesn't work, right? And they go bankrupt, and people know that. Uh, and the ones that do work, right? You would think that, okay, great, we went to this together. Now we're all going to make a lot of money. But the reality, unfortunately, is that a lot of these people then think, oh, it was all based on their work, and what did you do as an investor? And it should all be coming back to me. And everybody's looking for all kinds of weird ways to squeeze out the investor and pay the investor the minimum, and find all kinds of loopholes why now we shouldn't pay you right now, and rather than that, raising their salaries and putting a lot of personal expenses on the company account and so forth. And I thought that was like very disappointing, right? And then I said, okay, I'll just, I don't need any outside money, so I just start my own companies and rather hire some managers that do the work and give them a share. So it's basically the opposite. Um, and obviously then it's hard to find people that share your vision, or maybe that I don't think there's that many people that are good at doing startups that at the same time look for an employment agreement. Right. So they either want to do it themselves, or they just look for a normal corporate job, or even in a small company. But then it's more about give me exactly what I need to do, and that's what I'm going to do. But that's not how a startup operates, right? So I ended up doing a lot of things again myself, right? And so yes, we started one. It's called Villazo. It does high-end hotel management, originally only for very high-end houses, right? But then we also branched out into boutique hotels, and out of that also came a real estate division that is active in Miami. I started some tech companies again. One is an online membership club, if you want, for vetted people. It's called 007%. And that, I mean, a lot of these new businesses, they came out of the frustration that you see that a product that everybody should want is just not there, right? So with the hotel management for the villas, it was that every time I went on a vacation, I wanted to rent a villa, I basically deal with some sort of a real estate experience, which is kind of, here's your key, right? And then you get to the house, and it's not clean, and there's nothing in the fridge, and then you want to make reservations, you don't know who to call and so forth. So we just added a whole layer of hotel management into it, so that you would also have a chef and a butler and pre-stocked fridge and mini bars, and all the towels and bathrooms and bathroom products and so forth. So that was that, and we were the only ones that were doing that, so that grew really quickly. And then the 007% online community was that I find this hasn't changed now either. It's very complicated to see whether people, based on their online persona, whether that was Facebook or Instagram or TikTok right now, is who they are in real life, right? A lot of people, they built their online persona around somebody that they would like to be rather than somebody that they really are. And that's especially true so when it comes to how successful people are. or how wealthy people are. A lot of people want to appear wealthier or more successful than they really are. And so this is a community basically where people are personally verified. And so when you meet somebody or you're organizing a dinner or so, and you want to invite some people that maybe you don't know yet, but you would like to get to know, these are pre-vetted people that are interesting to meet.
Sure, and also look at part two when it comes to that, because we went over that in more detail in part two. Ironically, we had a bit of a tech issue in Miami because I met Christine in Miami as per part two, but then there was a tech issue before that. So anyway, going on to another question then. I read a really interesting answer of yours online where you said that before you made money, you always thought it would be good to have a huge house and this kind of thing. But then you did it, you built a huge mansion, but then you kind of sold out. You regretted it, so to speak, a little bit. Why is that, would you say? Why would you warn people against buying a huge mansion if they've sold their business?
Oh, I would not warn people against it. I think, if that's what you want. I mean, part of, the nice things that once you have a big liquidity event is that all these things that you dreamt about, all of a sudden you can just buy it. And I think, it's probably nice to do that. Uh, but you always have to look at what is the future with something, right? I mean, this is a general topic of happiness research, is that people get happy from experiences and not from things, right? So basically, why you get happy when you buy a certain thing is the experience of buying it. It's not necessarily down the road of using it a lot, right? And you know what? People are different. Some people, they love being out on the water, so they would buy a boat. Some people, they love driving fast cars, right, on a circuit, and they would buy a fancy race car. Some people maybe are into bicycling and buy some super high-end bike. Uh, I mean, for me, and I think, everybody in their lives at some point they want to build their own house, right, or buy their own house or so. So I think it's in human nature. You want to have your own place.
Mhm.
And I really built my dream house at the time, right? So I basically I bought one that I already thought, it looked really nice from the design that it had, but then, it was an older house, so we needed to renovate it. Then I added a lot of the things that I wanted, right? Then you have all these dreams, I need to have a jacuzzi on the rooftop where I can watch the skyline and the sunset, something like that. So you built all that up. I wanted to have a pool table. I wanted to have a home theater or whatever, right? So then the house becomes bigger. It ended up being a much larger project because we ended up actually tearing down the old house, but rebuilding the renovation plans just to have the current structure and the current codes for electricity and piping and so forth underneath the house that you can never change with an old house. And then, you know what? I mean, the house, it was great. I mean, it was super nice to walk into. Obviously everybody that walks through the door got very impressed. What you realize for your personal life is, even though you think in the beginning, I need to have a house that's big enough, so I want to have a family and I have kids, they all have enough space, right? Then I want to have enough space when people come visit, and they want to have their guest suites. But so in the beginning, right? First of all, you're not having guests all the time. I mean, at least I don't, right? There are some people that love to have a full house all the time, and it's like a zoo there, but it's not my thing, right? So I'm happy to accommodate some guests sometime, but I'm also happy when I'm by myself again. And then once you have little kids, you realize that it's actually much better to be in a smaller footprint, right? Because the baby always wants to crawl in all kinds of different areas. And then once, if the kitchen is too far away from the bedroom and the playroom, then you're constantly running around the house trying to just get one thing from one side of the house to the other. So I think you always overestimate in the beginning how much space you really need, which living is much more comfortable when it's, let's say, in in a distance where you can actually like yell and somebody hears it. And I mean, my house was too big for that, right? Basically, you have to call each other on the cell phone because you never know in which wing of the house somebody is, and they don't hear you on the other side. And there's so much land around it, right? So people are outside, inside. I mean, you basically cannot find people by just looking for them, right? So that's what you see. These are all the things. And then management is another thing, right? So in the beginning, when you have a small place, I mean, you're managing yourself because of course you know what you need, and maybe sometime a housekeeper to help clean. And then when you have a bigger house, and people say, oh, you're just easy, you just hire like a full-time house manager and stuff and take care of it. Maybe you hire a full-time maid. Ideally it's a couple, right, where the man sort of, and I built a guest cottage, right, where they could live and so forth. But it was impossible to manage that type of estate with just two people. So at the end, after years and years of trying, and I mean, part of it, we actually set up a whole company division just to manage luxury homes at the same time, right? Because then I ended up buying some more houses for investment and so forth. And I saw also that houses of other people that we would rent had the same problem, that the management was not done right. So at the end, I had 5 full-time people just for my house that were on the property every day. And then on top of that, there's whatever the people that do the pool service, the people do the landscaping, they come also regularly, like once or twice or even 3 times a week. So when you're in that house, you're basically feel like you live in a hotel, right? So like constantly staff around, and then you almost have to have like a property manager there full time, because otherwise the people always they come to you as the owner because they always want to please the owner. Oh, look at that, look at that. You know what? I mean, I don't have time to look at all that stuff that happens going on in the house every single day, because then I don't have time for anything else, right? So it's there's a lot of additional stress that maybe in the beginning you don't think about that comes with owning very large properties. And you know what? It's the exact same thing with a very large boat, or with anything that requires a lot of looking after.
So, Christian, now you've gone into many types of businesses, and one of them is the 007% Club, right? Tell me a little bit about that and how it came about.
Yeah, so that started as a little side project, which, funny enough, a lot of the businesses that it started after was that, right? That I saw a need of something, and I said, I researched a little bit, and I couldn't find what I was looking for, and I thought, oh, let's just start that, but let me put some manager on it that runs it. And then what always happens is, right, you hire the manager, but they can't really get it to work because they don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel, and then you have to get more and more involved yourself, or either completely run it yourself, or at least in cooperation with the general manager, right? So yeah, I had a bunch of businesses in hospitality, real estate, and financial, like investing sections. And so this 007, it started as an online club where I wanted to make sure that people are verified, right? Because the problem that you have in traditional online communities is you can upload any picture that you want, and you can say anything about yourself without anybody checking. So what that always leads to is that all the women want to appear prettier than they are, and all the men want to appear richer than they are. And so it makes it very hard of basically connecting with somebody online that you haven't met in real life, because most of the time you're going to be very disappointed, right? Based on the profile that always looks so great, and then in real life there's just not that much. So I thought it'd be great if there was an online community where there was somebody verifying all these profiles, right? And then basically creating a very eclectic small group of people that once they meet, they have interesting things to talk about, and can become friends and can do things together, whether that's a dinner or a party or a trip or so forth. And even when you meet somebody only online and then afterwards you meet them in real life, you're not going to be disappointed, right? And you should be positively surprised rather than negatively surprised, right? And There was actually a community in the beginning. It was before Facebook even was a thing. It was called the Small World. And I really liked that because it was kind of an invite-only community, and the people were sort of direct connections of the founders in the beginning. But then it became bigger, and all of a sudden everybody became somebody who could also invite other people, and then the whole exclusivity went away. So I wanted to create something that was more like a Small World in the very beginning, when it was all verified good people with a good heart, but also successful, or pretty, or connected, or famous, or anybody that fits into that group. And that's basically what we did. And right now, yes, we have a good group of people. I call it like a high-end family, if you want. And we organize trips or events together, and then people can join these events or see what's going on, or if somebody wants to do their own parties, dinners, or so forth, they also have access to the other members and can invite them.
Sure. So basically, there are models who join, there are also big spenders that join, and then there are high net worth people who have to prove they've got about 30 million in assets, something like that.
So there's different labels, let's say, that you can get, right? And depending on who you are, you get a different label. So we have a rich label. Yes, these are people that are ultra high net worth individuals, over 30 million in assets. We have a model label that you have to prove that you're an active model, right? We have a famous label, which where you have to prove that you're somebody that is in the top 50 in the world, let's say, in their field. And then we have also a big spender label, which is not necessarily somebody that has to have a certain net worth, but has to have a certain disposable income and be able to go to the same places that the rich people go to and pay the bill. We also have connectors. These are people that know a lot of people are interested to hang out with and so forth. But what is very, very good with the system is that basically everybody has that label. So when somebody is a connector, you're not assuming, or that person cannot pretend I'm rich or I'm a big spender, because your label is connector, right? So you are who you want to be online, and that is verified.
Sure. And if somebody wants to join this community, how can they do it, and which cities is this currently available in?
So this is a worldwide network, right? And the events that we're doing is actually all over the world. We just did an event that lasted a couple of days in Dubai. We're going to do one in Turkey end of June, and in Saint-Tropez, and in Mykonos. Then we're going to go to Bali. So it's like once a month kind of thing. There's some either trip or event somewhere. And then of course everybody is free to post their own events, right? Obviously, a lot of the people that are currently members are Miami based, because it started with my personal connections, but that's not the end of the game plan. The end of the game is that there are local communities in all the interesting places in the world.
Sure. And if someone wants to join, what's the best way to do that? Is it on the website, or how should they do it?
There's an application form on the website. Yes. So you can fill out all the information, and then you send it in, and then you're going to be contacted by one of our member managers in person, and they do a Zoom interview with you and verify your credentials.
Okay, well, thanks for joining me, Christian. So, great pleasure.
Oh, it was my pleasure.